Is the National Association of Realtors settlement going to change the way Americans buy and sell real estate? Let's find out. Hello everyone and welcome back. In today's video, I am going to be discussing the National Association of Realtors settlement. There's been a lot of news going around about that, so we're going to take a look at some of the headlines that I've seen. We will also be diving into the settlement itself to take a look at what actual changes are going to come from this settlement. With that said, if this is your first time, I just want to say thank you for tuning in. My name is Mike. I'm a realtor here in Nampa, Idaho, where I help people buy, sell, and invest in real estate. I also specialize in military relocations. I started this channel to help educate buyers and sellers on the processes. To most, buying a home will be their biggest purchase, and yet we receive little to no education on the subject. Most Americans will own 3 to 5 homes in their lifetime, and as a realtor, I've been blessed to help that many clients in a month, and so over the years, I have gained a lot of knowledge and experience that I would like to share with you. That way, when you enter into the market, you're ahead of 90 to 95% of the competition by being informed and confident. So with that, let's go ahead and jump into the first article. Let's go ahead and dive into these news articles here. First one I have pulled up is going to be from CNN Business. It says here, the 6% commission on buying or selling a home is gone after Realtors Association agrees to seismic settlement. Now, to my understanding, the DOJ still needs to approve this settlement, so it's not 100% complete, but we are getting there, it sounds like. The 6% commission, a standard in home purchase transaction, is no more. In a sweeping move expected to dramatically reduce the cost of buying and selling a home, the National Association of Realtors announced Friday a settlement with groups of home sellers agreeing to end landmark antitrust lawsuits by paying $418 million in damages and eliminating rules on commissions. But there is no rule that it has to be 6% or 5%. It can be 10%. Commissions are negotiable. And in the NAR settlement, I don't see anything where it says commissions have to be under 6% or commissions have to be limited in this way. It just simply states that commissions have always been negotiable. And in this settlement, NAR is not admitting to doing anything wrong here. Yeah, but there are no rules or laws or regulations that say commissions need to be a certain amount. Like I said, it is 100% negotiable, typically between the listing agent and the sellers of the home. Now, on the buyer's side, the buyer's agent, there really is no negotiation for their commission. That's done between the listing agent and the seller, and will determine how much they want to pay the buyer's agent. Now, as we move down in this article, let's see if there's anything else here. NAR represents 1 million realtors. Here's a sentence that I found very interesting. It says the agreement effectively will destroy the current home buying and selling business model, in which sellers pay both their broker and a buyer's broker, which critics say have driven housing prices artificially higher. I don't believe that to be the case. When we go into a listing presentation, we don't go to Mr. and Mrs. Seller and say, hey, your guys' house is worth $400,000, but because of my commissions and your closing costs, we're gonna need an additional $50,000 added onto that. So now we're gonna actually sell your home for $450,000. That's just not how it works. We go off of what we think we could sell the home for, minus what the current owner still owes on the home, minus closing costs and commissions. And then whatever left over from their equity in the home, that's what they're going to net. So it's not that agents are tacking on their fees additionally on top of the cost of the home. So it's just not a very accurate statement in my mind. But let's go on. Next one is going to be MSNBC. Headline reads, Realtors $418 million settlement could bring your dream home within reach. Despite record high home prices, American home buyers have finally caught a financial break. And the National Association of Realtors agreed to a deal Friday that would, pending a federal judge's approval of the deal, put an end to a longstanding policy of not allowing registered real estate agents to list properties for sale in the widely used multiple listing service database unless they included the amount of compensation the buyer's agent could expect to receive. And this is laid out in the settlement. One of the things that is going away is when you go on to any MLS as of right now, it will show buyer agent compensation amount. And in the settlement, it gets rid of that, which is interesting because that was put in place by MLS systems for transparency purposes. So that way the buyer would know what their agent is getting from the seller. So it's kind of interesting that we're going backwards on that. Like I said, this settlement does not say that buyers' agents are not going to get paid. It doesn't say that sellers aren't going to be able to pay for them as well. What it is saying is you can't put the buyer's agent compensation on the MLS. And one of the other noticeable differences that is coming out from the settlement is that it's going to be required for an agent and a buyer to have a buyer's representation agreement, which already exists. Most agents already put those into place. It's just now the settlement says you have to do that before, it's a requirement to do that, I believe, before you even go and show them a property. Despite record high home prices, American home buyers might have finally caught a financial break. It is widely believed that the changes, if they are approved by the federal court, will not only significantly decrease the commissions that real estate agents receive, but that they will also bring down the costs associated with buying and selling a property. It might, in best case scenario for buyers, reduce home sale prices. Best case scenario. And that is definitely a best case scenario for buyers. Unfortunately, I think the harsh reality is sellers are not going to bring down their home prices 3% because they're saving that from not having to pay a buyer's agent commission. I just don't see that. And a perfect example are for sale by owners. For sale by owners obviously don't have a listing agent, but a lot of time they don't even want to pay a full commission to a buyer's agent. And on top of that, most for sale by owners, not all, but most, are generally overpriced. And they're not overpriced by like 10 or 15,000. It's generally a pretty good sum that they are overpriced. I think that's a good example of how we could see things moving forward with other sellers that are listing with an agent but are potentially not willing to pay for a buyer's agent. I don't think they're going to take that 3% off of the purchase price of the home and give that as an incentive to a buyer. I just don't think so. I think what will more likely happen, home prices are going to stay the same or will be largely unaffected by this settlement. And then what you will see is you will see sellers offering, concessions of some sort, whether that's a closing cost concession or whether that's money towards your buyer's agent, which is probably more than likely how it's going to end up. But let's go ahead and get into National Association of Realtors. This is their website here. The truth about the NAR settlement agreement. Misinformation has been persuasive in the media over real estate commissions. Here are the facts you should know. Let's see what they have to say here. Facts first here. As much the media has gotten wrong about the NAR settlement, which will require association to pay $418 million over 4 years, some outlets have suggested the NAR previously set or guided commissions to a standard rate of 6%. Even President Joe Biden in recent comments misspoke in suggesting that the settlement makes commissions negotiable for the first time. You know that is false. NAR does not set commissions, and commissions were negotiable long before this settlement. They are and will remain entirely negotiable between brokers and their clients, and housing prices are dictated by market forces go beyond members' control. So there, as you can see from the NAR article that we just went through, compared to the first two, there are definitely some differences, but why don't we just go ahead and talk about this for a second, kind of wrap this all up, right? So mainstream media is out there saying that this is going to completely overhaul the way people buy and sell real estate. I don't think that's necessarily true. I think we're going to see little changes here and there over time, but that is just very, par for the course when it comes to this industry. Things change. Buyers and sellers adapt, realtors adapt. The 6% going away or fees coming down, there's nothing in the settlement that states that. Two things that we can point to that are going to change is now on the MLS service, the listing agent is no longer going to be allowed to post the buyer agent commission. Buyers are also going to be required to have a buyer's representation agreement with an agent prior to viewing a property. Other than those two changes, there's not a whole lot else that is coming down from this settlement that is really going to impact the real estate market. I think, if anything, this is really going to negatively impact buyers, especially first-time home buyers. They don't have closing costs. A lot of times they're getting assistance from the state for their down payment. So asking a buyer to come out of their pocket another, 2 or 3%, most buyers are just not going to be able to afford that. So if anything, if the settlement does go through, I think it's actually just made buying a home in the United States more difficult. I think a lot more buyers could potentially end up going into the home buying process unrepresented, leaving them vulnerable and exposed to being taken advantage of, especially if the seller has an agent. Now, you as a buyer with limited experience and knowledge is going into the biggest purchase of your life without a professional. That's like going to court representing yourself and not having an attorney. Just doesn't make a lot of sense. But, you know, like I said, I don't think there's going to be too many changes here too rapidly. Supposedly, if this does get approved, it should go into effect mid-July. So there's still a couple months in between now and then to see how this is all going to play out. But let me know what you think in the comments. If you guys have questions about something maybe I didn't cover, please feel free to leave them in the comments below. I'd be happy to get back to you with that. But other than that, guys, thank you for tuning in. I do appreciate it. If you got some value out of this, please like, share, subscribe. It definitely helps the channel, and I will see you in the next one.